the American identity is. Is it hot dogs and hamburgers on the 4th of July, the Super Bowl football game, the World Series game with a bag of peanuts saying take me out to the ball game, or even enjoying a NASCAR race in the hot sun? After much research, I found that the American identity is a mixture of other cultures. It's a mixing bowl of traditions, holidays, sports, and foods from all around the world. But does this mean that nothing here in America proudly has "Made in the USA" stamped on it? After more research, I finally understood why, if you drive down the road after a mile or so, you're able to see the legendary golden arches on every street corner. Because, in the end, McDonald's is part of the American identity. To understand why McDonald's is part of the American identity, we will first look at a few factors. First, we will look at why Americans may not like being associated with McDonald's as their identity. Next, we will look at how McDonald's is viewed by other countries. And finally, we are going to look at the history of McDonald's to understand why McDonald's is actually part of our American identity. And just in case you guys can't actually read beneath that picture, it says McDonald's, making women into lesbians, one Big Mac at a time. Although possibly being America's one claim to fame, McDonald's is not always the icon that Americans want to be associated with. Despite the fact that it has become a daily routine for many of us, most of us are kind of ashamed of it. At the University of Minnesota's role play debate for an English course, Diana Goshwell stated, quote, "I think it's a shame that McDonald's is such a large symbol of the American culture. When you think about it, it's actually quite embarrassing. In a country where so many cultures coexist, the idea of McWorld dominates all opinions of the U.S. In 2007, Morgan Spurlock's Super Size Me documentary came out focusing on McDonald's. He ate McDonald's for 3 meals a day and showed you the realities of the effects that it had on your body. It was disturbing and took the American people by shock. After that, many Americans stopped eating McDonald's as often as they had before. According to McSpotlight.org's What's Wrong with McDonald's, feeling full after a quarter pounder is nearly impossible because 48% of a quarter pounder is water. According to other studies, McDonald's is not only the destroyer of health, but also life and the environment. According to McSpotlight.org, McDonald's is plagued with destroying rainforests by cutting down acres of land to create their paper goods supply. It is also believed that McDonald's has brainwashed the children of America with their glamorous toys or gimmick to get their attention. And McDonald's is nowhere near off the hook with animal rights activists. It is said that McDonald's kills about 450 animals a year just to make the burgers of the British citizens. So, since we can now understand why McDonald's may seem to have at least one reason that every American dislikes the idea that McDonald's is part of their identity, let's understand what other cultures think. Today, the golden arches of McDonald's are associated with the American identity, both here in America across the globe. In the end, America is the home of McDonald's. It began here. And over time, it has expanded to find homes in other countries attempting to adapt to their cultures. And many of you may know the idea of globalization. And globalization plus McDonald's equals a great amount of fear amongst different countries. People feel that we are infringing on their cultures. We are trying to take over what they do. We are trying to make them more American. And McDonald's is our way of doing this, apparently. But around the globe, McDonald's stands as the symbol of the American identity, even if it's in a fairly negative light. So what is it that has brought McDonald's to be this loved and hated powerhouse that it is today? The history of McDonald's is written by Jane Daniels in McDonald's, A Collectible History. In the 1940s, brothers Dick and Mac McDonald, up there, got together and started a drive-in barbecue. They soon realized that their hamburgers sold best, shut down for 3 months, and in 1948, they reopened as a walk-up stand offering burgers, fries, shakes, coffee, and Coke, all at a reasonable price. In 1961, milkshake salesman Ray Kroc was brought to McDonald's by all the commotion that is making. He purchased the business and had the goal of making cheap, ready-to-go hamburgers, french fries, and milkshakes a nationwide business. From the 1940s, when McDonald's was founded and forward, it was all the rage. In 1947, customers could eat outside under canopies. In the 1960s, when Kroc bought the business, McDonald's started to look more like what it is today. The American public was thrilled. A family could go out and eat a meal for cheap. Everyone, all together, nice and quick. In 1963, the 500th McDonald's opened. The 500th student graduated from Hamburger University, and the 1 billionth hamburger was served on live television. In 1968, Kroc opened his 1,000th store. So, Americans identify with fast food. We have busy lives. We like to eat on the go. We're always in a rush. And McDonald's has hours that can accompany that, from 24-hour drive-thrus to dine-in areas that are open from early hours in the morning to midnight. David Barboza stated in his article, "When the golden arches are 2, red, white, and blue," that McDonald's, quote, which has planted its trademark golden arches outside more than 29,000 outlets in 120 countries, stands as one of the most ambiguous symbols of the American identity, and is one of the most American of American companies. And here stands McDonald's as it is today. A giant company that was started here in America by 2 Americans and has grown to be nothing short of a successful business. So what does it all mean? For some Americans, McDonald's is a daily stop, a common lunch, dinner, or even breakfast. Yet, where some Americans may not want to be identified with McDonald's, the golden arches globally scream, America! McDonald's is a company that began here in America by 2 American entrepreneurs and then was bought by another American entrepreneur. And it has thrived since creation. Fast food, for many Americans and foreigners will agree, is an immense part of the American culture. But overall, McDonald's is one of the true American portions of our culture and identity. The golden arches have withstood the test of time. They are still appearing inside and outside of our new favorite shopping malls. You can find them on every street corner. McDonald's might as well be America's one claim to fame. It is one of the things that make our people who we are. It has caused Americans to be obese. It has created children's programs that have helped the lives of poor children. It is one of the reasons that so many different things are in existence today. McDonald's is inevitably part of the American identity.
We're America's favorite, #1.
Where else could you have so much fun?
It's just one place you can go where it's fun to eat and talk and laugh and still get some change back. We're smiling at McDonald's, taking pride in what we do. That's why 11 million times a day we get to say, thank you, fast, fresh, always fun.
Thanks for making us the #1.
We get it together, McDonald's and you.
So next time you drive down the street corner, keep in mind that every mile or so you see a McDonald's. And the same thing happens in other countries, and Americans started it, and it is inevitably part of your culture. Thank you.
See you now on a Big Mac. And the griddle man.